What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome into the CHGO Bulls Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download their app. Be sure to use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Happy Wednesday. I'm Peck. You can follow me on Twitter at Bulls_Peck, joined by my guy, Will the GOAT Gottlieb. Will_Gottlieb is his Twitter handle. Our pal and producer, Joey Spathis. And joining us in studio, a familiar face for all you Bulls fans out there, Sean Highkin. Woo!
How you guys doing?
Follow him on Twitter at Highkin. Welcome back, buddy.
It's good to be back with you guys. I think the last time I was in here was almost exactly a year ago.
Yeah, it was last spring, right, when you were visiting.
So yeah, what brings you to town, Sean?
I don't know. The team that I cover, the Portland Trailblazers, might have had some stuff happen.
Some stuff happened last night.
Speaking of which, you can catch Sean's work covering the Blazers these days at his Rose Garden Report. Check it out. And for Bulls fans who might be wondering if the Bulls and Blazers might be making some deals this summer, subscribe to Rose Garden Report, podcasting, newsletters. You probably also remember him from the early days of The Athletic when you two were colleagues for The Athletic Chicago.
I've been colleagues with Will. And you were
a baton passer to me at Locked On Bulls.
Was it Jordan Malley that you
Jordan
were doing
Malley.
With?
Shout out to Jordan.
After Cody and I stopped doing Locked On, you moved
Cody Westerland and you, the OGs of the Locked On Bulls podcast.
Two of us. I actually just saw Cody earlier today.
Yeah. Shout out to Cody.
Yeah.
And now Locked On Bulls being held down by our guys Pat the Designer and CEO Hayes. Shout out to them as well. Always nice when you pass through town, Sean. Obviously, it was for the Combine and the NBA Draft Lottery. You guys were both in the drawing room last night. So let's start there. We'll talk offseason trades and all that fun stuff later on in today's show, but I wanted to start with that experience. Was it the first time for both of you that you were in the actual room where the ping pong balls and the drawing gets done?
Yeah, I've covered the lottery before, and usually what that entails is you get a credential and you get to be in the audience for what they show on TV, where like Mark Tatum, the deputy commissioner, is holding up the names, the envelopes, and the team reps are on stage and all that kind of stuff. That's usually what it is when you're covering the lottery. But there's a smaller amount of media that they invite into the actual back room, where they actually draw the ping pong balls. And what they do for those people is they take away our phones or any way that we have of communicating with the outside world. So that, yes, that
there you see it.
It's on the screen.
Thank you,
I didn't
Joey.
have a picture of
For those
my
watching
picture.
on YouTube, there's a picture that, Will, you took of that very nondescript package that they have you put your phone in.
And what that is as we're leaving, as we're going into the room, we have to put our phone, I have Apple Watch, you put that in there. Anything that could be used, we're allowed to bring in a notebook and a pen.
But nothing that can communicate with the outside world.
And so then, basically,
unfortunately, I tried to smoke signal you guys in case you wanted to place any DraftKings bets.
Absolutely. But so basically, they let a handful of media members in there, basically just to be like, see, look, there's no way this thing could be rigged. And I got to say, it did its job, because I watched them do it. Having seen I know all the jokes. I know the frozen envelope stuff is fun to talk about.
Right.
Having actually watched this, and I'm sure Will agrees with me, having watched this in person and having seen how thorough they are and making sure that like everybody knows every single step of everything and everything being above board, there is no way the league could possibly rig this.
There's no way. And that was exactly where I was going to. Just seeing the actual machine, and I think his name was Micah Day, who, and I wrote this in my story coming out of last night, so if you're interested in like the full breakdown, go check that out. I just tweeted a link, but you can also find it on ALLCITY.com. Just like the way the mixing took place, where Micah was standing in the back and he had his stopwatch, and every 10 seconds he would raise his hand, and that would indicate that it was time for another ping pong ball to come shooting out of the top of this machine. And he would do that over and over.
He had his back turned to the machine, so he couldn't even see the number on the ball that was coming out. They go so far above and beyond to make sure that every single part of this is above board and that there's nothing that is ambiguous at all. Like they are making sure that you can't even like hint at the idea that maybe there could be some shenanigans.
This is not what NBA fan conspiracy theorists want to hear, you guys. People want to believe that it's rigged. Although I mean, I was saying on last night's live show reacting to it, like if the league was going to rig it, the Spurs, small market team like that.
Well, but I mean, I think the Spurs wouldn't be last on the list. I mean, San Antonio, they have a long history of international players. I think a lot of they have a big French.
Wemby played for Tony Parker's team.
The Spurs.
Right?
There was a French reporter in the room with us last night. I was talking to him. He said that by far the most popular team in France among NBA fans is the Spurs because of Tony Parker.
Right.
So like
Shout
there
out
is
to
that.
Our friends over at Trash Talk who we met on our Paris trip. Big Spurs fans.
I personally would argue maybe this is a self-interested standpoint because of what it would have done for my career if it had gone a different way. And by the way, Portland was one digit off of getting it.
The number one?
Both number one and number two.
Oh.
But I would argue you put him with Dame. That's the best day one basketball situation.
Yeah, could be.
So, but no, I think, I mean, again, Will and I have both talked about this in detail. There is no possible way this thing could have been rigged.
Explain that further. The whole like every 10 seconds he raises his hand. Does somebody like press a button that shoots a ping pong ball out?
That's pretty. That sounds kind of crazy. That's pretty.
Exactly
so
right.
Basically, there's 14 ping pong balls and they're numbered 1 through 14.
Right.
And they put them into the machine. And by the way, another way of like them being super overboard about it, like being above board. They hold the ball up, one.
Ping pong ball number
Every
one.
single person in the room has to verify, yes, this is one. We see that this is number one.
They drop
two,
it in the bucket.
3. Like, they're making sure everybody is on the same page, that this is exactly what's going on. We're not hiding anything from anybody. And then what they do is, so there are 1,000 combinations.
Right.
And every team is assigned...
Of 4 numbers,
yes,
right? Yeah.
Yes, of 4 numbers. Every team is assigned a certain number of combinations. So, like... The Spurs, the Rockets, and the Pistons were the 3 teams that had the best odds. They had the 14% chance, so they had 140 out of the 1,000 combinations each.
Right.
The Blazers had a 10.5% chance, so they had 105 combinations. So what they would then do is in the 10-second intervals, they would draw 4 balls out, read the numbers off, and the team that had that combination of numbers was assigned that pick. And then they feed the balls back into the thing and do it again. And it was actually kind of funny because like the first 3 went off without a hitch. They, San Antonio 1, Charlotte 2, Portland 3. And then they drew out another San Antonio combination, which meant they had to feed it back in and just do it over, throw that one out. And then a Charlotte one came out. And then finally after that, they fed it back in. And then finally a Houston one came out. So like they repeat the process as many times as they have to until they have 4 different teams.
They draw a team that has not been drawn yet in the previous picks.
Yeah. So that's how it unfolded. By the way, I know you guys are upset about, the Bulls not moving
the logos in the envelopes?
Imagine how mad Detroit must be. They had the number 1 odd. They had the worst record in the league. They won 17 games.
Yeah.
They dropped back 4 spots to 5. That is brutal.
That's right. Well, so they dropped back 2 spots for being in the top 3, which, the odds are the same for the 3 worst teams.
That's still brutal.
Whether you're the Pistons' worst record at 17 wins or, Houston and San Antonio. But yes, that is true. And Big Dave and I were sitting here last night saying, thank goodness it wasn't Detroit. Like, I didn't want Wemby to go anywhere other than the Bulls, obviously.
Well,
but
so let's talk about this. What would let's say out of the top 7 teams. So let's remove like the 1 whatever percent chance the Bulls had. Let's out of the top 7 teams.
So
which would be the team that you would least want him to go to? Because I have a couple of answers.
So for Bulls fans, I would think Detroit is at the top of that list because you don't want Wemby in your division. Yeah. You don't want to play Wemby 4 or 5 times a season.
So Pacers as
well.
But from a pure basketball standpoint, Wemby, Cade, Jaden Ivey, like that's not a terrible nucleus for. Like,
no, which as a Bulls fan, I don't want.
To me, it's Houston and Charlotte.
I did not want either of them.
Yeah,
those are the 2.
Just because they did not have the karma to deserve it.
It's not even about the karma. Those are just terrible basketball situations.
Right,
it's both.
Basketball organizations. They're terrible organizations. Yeah, no, I'm glad it wasn't Detroit. I'm also glad it wasn't the Rockets. And I'm excited to see what he does in San Antonio. There's some interesting
What was
pieces
crazy
there.
to me was when I was reading the Zach Lowe article where he sort of published everything that was going on inside the room.
Yeah.
How there was at one point 11 balls left for the final thing, and 6 of them would have been the Wizards winning the entire lottery.
That's rough.
And it was very heavily stacked towards the Wizards winning. And where'd they end up? 6? 7?
They
stood where they were. So
Everything
8,
was
I believe.
chalk
8?
until Portland moved into the top 4. Portland was the only team that didn't have one of the 4 worst records that moved up.
Yeah. So as someone who covers the Blazers in that drawing room, were you allowed to have any sort of audible reaction to this happening, or were you just sitting there very stoic and
It
being
was
like, "Oh,
pretty
look at that."
quiet in there.
So I was actually joking about this earlier with Sergey Oliva, who's the Blazers assistant general manager, who was their representative in the room, because every team, in addition to having who they had on stage, every team had somebody in the room also.
Right.
And Sergey was joking with me about how he was going to go crazy if they got number 1, and he asked me am I also going to go crazy? And I told him it's cute and funny and cool when a front office executive loses their mind when their team gets the number 1 overall pick. A media member who's supposed to cover this stuff objectively would probably not. The optics of that would not be great.
Right.
It would not be.
But I remember the footage of the Pelicans people when they
Alvin,
got the Zion pick.
it was Alvin that was in the room.
Yep,
And
yeah.
it was actually really funny. You guys watched it on TV. Brian Wright, who is the Spurs general manager, is the number 2 behind RC in that organization. He was the Spurs rep in the room when they called San Antonio. And again, this was an hour before it was actually shown on TV. He barely moved. He did a little fist pump, but he wasn't going crazy. And then you guys saw on the telecast what you guys saw on ESPN when the Spurs were the number 1 pick. Peter Holt, the owner's son, was absolutely losing his mind.
Yeah.
So
It was a little underwhelming in there. I thought the Alvin Gentry thing became sort of a viral moment because of how crazy he went. But this is a big deal. I was expecting a little bit more.
This is the biggest draft lottery since LeBron.
Yeah. Which is what you expect reactions to be high from the people representing the organizations who are there and are the ones who cash in that winning ticket.
I'm not going to lie and say I had absolutely no emotional reaction to the results because, again, even if you're not a fan of, my role is being a beat writer that covers the team, not be a fan of the team.
Yeah.
But you still have to think about your own self-interest and what it would if
covering the Blazers is a much more lucrative and interesting job if Victor Wembanyama gets drafted there in a month.
Yes. And so, the air kind of came out of my, area of the room a little bit when San Antonio's name was called. But then when they moved up to 3, I was like, okay, I can work with this.
Yeah.
That's literally exactly what he said. I was sitting right next to him.
I can work with this.
I can work with this.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because you mentioned all the combinations and the percent chance. The Bulls had 18 of the 1,000, 1.8%.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Joey, I don't know if you have the picture, but I took a picture of the possible numbers.
The
and at one point,
yeah.
I believe it was their 6th or 7th go around because, as Sean mentioned, they tried it 3 times. They got the 3 picks, and then they had a 4th one that was a repeat, so they had to redo it. A 5th one that was a repeat. And at one point, they called 7 and 13, which were common numbers of the Bulls 18. So I was like, uh-oh, could they be moving up here? And then quickly, that was not the case. But yeah, I think the big takeaway for me, and I'm sure you agree with this, is there's a reason why they do the whole song and dance the way that they do it on TV.
Yeah.
Because in there, yes, it's exciting, but the first combination that they read is for the first pick.
They can't. So, they don't count it down. They get this is the number 1 pick, and then the 2 and the 3 and the 4. So it's anticlimactic, and it's also it's literally what would it take 5-7 minutes maybe to do all of the combinations, and then they're going to have to fill airtime. Whereas with the TV broadcast, the way they do it, you can interview each of the individual lottery reps and have them on stage, count it down in dramatic fashion, count down up until number 5.
They've got the music playing in the background.
And then do a commercial break between 5th and the top 4.
Right.
They make it into a whole TV presentation, and they have Malika there to interact with Mark Tatum, like that, and the whole ESPN countdown crew or whatever. what they show on TV is much better TV than what we saw in the
right. And I think that's why, because a lot of NBA fans who are the conspiracy theorist type, who do believe that it's rigged or is sometimes rigged or could be rigged, are like, just put a camera in that back room.
You know what, though?
Camera.
You can.
I've heard recently, I think on Twitter last night or this morning,
it's there.
If you go to the NBA's YouTube channel, you can watch a live feed.
Yes, the entire
of the numbers
thing.
being pulled.
If you go into YouTube right now and don't go right now. Wait until you're finished watching the CHGO Bulls show.
Sean.
Wait until you're finished watching us, and then the next thing you need to do when we finish up is go on YouTube and type in 2023 NBA Draft Lottery, and there's two videos. There's the one that I think is on the ESPN page where it's like what was shown on TV. You can watch that.
Right.
But the one on the NBA's channel, I think it's like 15 minutes long or something.
Right.
And they show the entire, every part of it. Like, they show, Byron Spurl, who's the league's head of league operations, who runs this type of stuff, explaining it. They show the whole, inserting the ping pong balls one by one into the thing, and all of them getting drawn. The entire thing is on YouTube. You can watch it. You can decide for yourself. Again, both Will and I were in the room. We can vouch for it. It was completely above board. It was completely not. There was nothing shady going on.
No funny business.
None at all.
It's disappointing. You want to be able to believe that there's funny business, but I guess for the sake of peace of mind, it's good to know. But okay, real quick, and then we could take our first break and then move on to some interesting stuff about what the Blazers are going to do with this number 3 pick and how it might affect the Bulls. We had a little freak out moment on our show last night because
I saw this.
Just as it was 2 years ago, and I had forgotten they do it this way, because who the hell actually stores memories up there that are that menial? Instead of revealing a Bulls logo, they reveal a Magic logo. And then under it, I actually rewatched it this morning and noticed, because I was like, well, why? They should put that on the sign. Turns out they did. It said in lettering under the Magic logo, from the Bulls via trade. I didn't notice. As Dave and I were sitting here watching, all we saw was Mark Tatum unveiling not a Bulls logo. All I saw was...
The TV's pretty small. It's a
small TV up in the corner. It was on mute because we were doing a live show. There are plenty of excuses for why we took the bait for a half a second. And then once we took the bait, we were bounding around. But why do they do it that way? Why? I do not understand. They have an envelope. They have a logo for the teams. The Magic had their own lottery pick. So instead of a Magic logo that says pick from Bulls, why not just leave it as a Bulls logo and then underneath it put pick going to Magic to prevent all of the headache and heartache the Bulls fans endured last night?
Well, the thing is, what was the Magic's pick? 6?
Yeah. Whereas the Bulls were at 11, so Bulls fans were hoping to not see the Bulls logo when they got to 11.
Well, the thing that you have to know, though, is that it's literally impossible for the Magic's own pick to be 11 because you can only fall back 4 spots from your position. So
I understand that. In the heat of the moment, was my brain doing that?
You know what, though? I respect that, once this viral moment happened, and, I saw the tweet. I didn't watch the show live because I was obviously in the room.
Yeah.
I saw the tweet of the video of you guys going crazy. I saw all the quote tweets about how did you guys not know the rules. I respect that you guys are just leaning into it and we're like, yeah, we had an emotional reaction in there.
We were fans caught up in the moment.
No, I thought it was a good piece of television.
I think the other way to think about it though is not that this was the Bulls pick that would go to the Magic if it was outside the top 4. This is the Magic's pick that would go to the Bulls if it was in the top 4 because they had traded it away.
I guess that is a different way to look at it.
That's one way to spin it.
It is a pick owned by the Magic unless it is protected in the top 4.
Zone.
Yeah.
Put a picture of the Bulls logo with an arrow to the Magic logo. Illustrate it more clearly.
So how could you fit both logos on one square?
It's a big square. That's what I'm saying.
I know.
After they did all of the drawing, there was the immediate reaction. Afterwards, the people that were pulling out the ping pong balls sat down at a table with the placards and the envelopes that you saw on the telecast. And they would, a lot of the media were talking to the executives, but they would hold up the placard of the team logo and the envelope with the number on it and say, San Antonio is going in the 1. And then close it, put the sticker on it. And it
was Ernst & Young higher-ups who were there certifying that everything was...
But again, just making sure that there was not any funny business going on. We're showing the media. We're showing the camera. We're showing, the executives here. But so at that point, I mean, they could have just printed out a placard with both options. Like the Bulls get one, the Bulls keep their pick, and the Bulls trade goes to the Magic.
I'm sure they had a Bulls placard ready to go.
Right.
Because
if
it
they
ended
jumped
up as the Magic's pick, they put inside the envelope as the Magic's pick.
I hate it. They need to change it. That's all I got to say about that. We could have avoided that because I came into last night with no hope and no optimism. Big Dave was here. Big Dave was like, we may not get Wemby, but we're getting top 4 for sure. He was feeling those vibes. I was like, I'm not. And then I got duped and had to go through that roller coaster of emotion for nothing. Stupid. But here we are. We live to fight another day. All right, let's take our first ad break, and then we'll come back and dive into some Blazers trade talk with that number 3 pick. While we're doing that, everybody watching along on YouTube, do us a quick, easy favor. Hit that thumbs up button. And if you aren't already, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well to get alerts anytime we or anybody in our CHGO Sports fam go live on our YouTube channel. You ready to do some ad reading, Will? I know that you occasionally do it when you're doing HQs with Mark, but it's like Dave's not in the middle chair.
I'm really disappointed.
Big Dave's off today, by the way. He'll be back.
I'm really disappointed I'm not going to get to see another Big Dave ad read in person. Those are legendary.
Guess you'll just have to come back.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
I'll lead things off thanking our wonderful friends at the Goose Island Beer Company. Chicago's beer since 1988. A wonderful variety of beers to choose from when you're having your cookouts, your hangouts this summer, enjoying that beautiful Chicago weather. You've got the Goose IPA, which we were sipping on during the lottery last night. 6-time medal winner at the Great American Beer Fest. Always in style. Citrus aroma and a bold hoppy finish. You got this new Pilsner that they just came out with. The Pocket Pills, an everyday beer. It's what brewers are drinking. It's what I'm drinking right now. Plus, of course, the big fan favorite among Chicagoans, the 312 Wheat Ale, always a good choice in the summertime. And that line of Beer Hug IPAs that are also new, including that Tropical Beer Hug, the Dry Hopped Imperial IPA. 9.9% on that bad boy. Watch yourself, but they are delicious. So, grab yourself an ultra-fresh, brewery-exclusive beer at Goose Island's original brew house on Clybourne Ave in Lincoln Park, or from their tap room on Fulton Street in Westtown. Goose Island Beer Company, they're Chicago's beer.
Hey, Joey.
Oh, he's not even on the mic.
He's warming up.
I was getting some water.
Want to do a little? Want to
I
chat a
have
little ComEd with me?
returned to chat about the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program. Because I love it so much.
I just walked away.
The ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve, helping maintain energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future.
That's right, Joseph. ComEd offers a wide variety of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across the territory. ComEd also offers free facility assessments that can help find energy-saving opportunities like for HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes.
Well, how does it work?
I'd be happy to tell you, Joseph. An authorized engineer will work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. These can be done in person or virtually and last approximately 2 hours. Within 3 to 4 weeks, customers will receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects that they can start working on immediately. Each recommendation will include estimated energy savings, cost savings, project cost, potential incentives, and simple payback. So if you own a business, do not wait. Get started saving money and energy and Monergy today.
Monergy.
For energy saving tips, lighting incentives, or to schedule your free facility assessment, go to ComEd.com/poweringbiz.
Well, was that ComEd.com/poweringbiz?
It sure was. Get it scheduled today, folks.
ComEd would love you.
Boom diggity. All right, moving right along.
That was good, by the way, Will.
Thanks,
you did a
dude.
good
I
job
appreciate
with
it.
that.
I was
appreciate
impressed. It almost was as if
good as
you have done that with Joey all the time.
I closed my eyes and I didn't quite hear Big Dave, but it was like you're getting into the realm.
If I'm even in the same sentence, I've won.
Big Dave's not allowed to do the ComEd one. This is true because he likes to ad-lib a lot in his ad reads. And they had a more specific request for a more traditional delivery.
Okay. Sure, yeah.
Which is a shame because honestly, Big Dave should do every ad read, even when he's not here. I should have just called him and made him talk into the microphone.
You could do like you know how like they put out like the Drake The Weeknd AI song. They could do like an AI Big Dave doing these ad reads for when he's not here.
You know what? Maybe that's where he is right now. We don't know. All right, guys, let's talk pre-draft trade possibilities. Bulls fans now, with the results of last night's lottery, do not have a first-round pick. Don't also have a second-round pick currently.
Correct.
If they wanted to get back into this pretty talented 23 draft class between now and June, when the draft takes place, people have been talking, Sean, about the fact that the Blazers, who had their lottery-protected pick that they kept instead of conveying to the Bulls because they themselves found were in the lottery last night, that maybe if convincing Dame to stay involved making aggressive moves to put more win-now talent around him,
that is
different
correct.
win-now talent around him, that they could make some deal with the Bulls to essentially give that pick now before then being able to, via the Stepien rule, trade other future draft capital, which they can't do while they still owe this pick to the Bulls. Now that they have jumped up to the number 3 spot in last night's lottery, is that in play as something that they might be looking to deal to get star caliber talent to join Dame in Portland?
I think it's more nothing is certain. And a year ago, I was convinced that they were going to trade the number 7 pick for the same reason. They had pretty serious discussions on draft night last year with Toronto about OG Anunoby. And then they ended up not trading the pick and taking Shaedon Sharpe, and so that was a little bit of a departure from that. This time, I think, especially, they tried the quote-unquote 2 timelines thing where you're going to have a bunch of young players. I mean, the Bulls have tried that in the past, too, where you have a bunch of young players, but then you also have
vets versus...
It doesn't work. Everybody kind of sees it doesn't work. I think now they know it really doesn't work. I don't think anything is 100%, but I would be very surprised if the Blazers select and then keep a player with the number 3 pick. I think if they had gotten number 1, obviously they would have taken Victor Wembanyama because no GM is trading Victor Wembanyama. But if the pick wasn't 1, the plan was always to trade it. And jumping up from 5 to 3 is not the worst thing in the world when it comes to the value of that pick.
So let me ask you this, because I think before you can even start to have those conversations, would you say, what's your sort of level of certainty as far as they're going to stick with the Damian Lillard timeline? Because we've seen that reported a couple different places, yourself included, as opposed to trading Dame and just going all in, because now you've got Anthony Simons, you've got Shaedon Sharpe, you've got the 3rd pick, you've got the 23rd pick. That's a potential pathway in itself. So what do you think the likelihood is that they go the build around Dame route as opposed to the younger kind of reboot?
The only way they're going to trade Dame is if he asks for it. And I have not heard anything that would suggest that that's possible. In fact, from what I heard, is he's apparently pretty fired up that they moved up because that's a better pick to trade. But everybody's on the same page, I believe, in the organization with him. And
right.
I mean, this season, they went into this past season. I actually remember this. I was on with you guys a year ago, and we were talking about the pick that the Blazers eventually owe to the Bulls.
Right.
And I was saying both the Bulls and the Blazers would like for the pick to convey in 2023.
Yeah.
Portland entered this season. I mean, you saw they traded for Jeremy Grant.
Right.
They went into this season intending to make the playoffs. And then, it didn't end up going that way, and they went the other way. But Chauncey Billups...
So, sorry to interject. You're saying you are allowed to pivot once your season's not going the way you want it to and then steer towards the lottery?
It's a thing
You're allowed to do that?
It's a thing that can happen.
Somebody alert the Bulls!
It's a thing that can happen, but Chauncey Billups has talked before about how miserable he was at the end of his first season as a head coach, knowing that he was going to lose all those. Nobody in the organization, you can kind of break it down and say, okay, maybe technically, objectively, asset-wise, the best thing to do is to trade Dame and get a bunch of picks and young players back. Nobody wants to. They did not plan on tanking or being in the lottery this year. Nobody wants multiple years in a row of that in order to maybe one day get a player as good as Damian Lillard.
Yeah,
that's the thing. I totally understand kind of where. I mean, I said this on Twitter earlier. Usually, I mean, there are sometimes there are some teams that are just totally stuck where like the Wizards should trade Bradley Beal if they can find a team to take him. Because that's just they have nothing. They have no anything. But like,
how dare you? They have Daniel Gafford.
But to me, for the most part, in my view, and this is something like my thinking on this has evolved because when I was younger, I used to be a big like all about like the assets and make sure you maximize. Like to me, trading your star, I mean, it's one thing if he asked for it. Dame has been with, the Blazers for so long. If he were to go to them and say, look, it's time, I think they would work with him and be willing to, do right by him and send him somewhere he wants to go and try to get something back. Again, that's not something that has been talked about as of right now. But the idea of proactively trading him without him asking for it for a bunch of picks and young players, whether it's him, just because we're talking about him, usually what that is, it's not so much, like I think the thing a lot of fans don't understand who aren't, in this the way that, Will and I are at these games talking to people, most general managers' number one goal is not to win a championship, it is to keep their own job. And if you trade your star player for picks and young players and like the package, you buy yourself time. 5 years of job security because you can go to ownership and say, hey, you can't fire me. You got to let me see this rebuild through. That buys you 5 years of job security. And I actually kind of on that note, Portland is the rare situation. We're getting a little bit in the weeds here, but Portland is the rare situation where the trade Dame and blow it up and rebuild thing is not the best thing for their general manager's job security because I still think that sometime within the next year or two, the team is going to be sold.
Yeah.
And let's say that, let's just say for the sake of argument, Phil Knight buys the team because that's the name that's been rumored and that's out there. And that is who I believe is ultimately going to be the one that buys the team.
Phil Knight.
Yes.
Okay.
He buys the team. They've traded Dame. They're in the early stages of this rebuild. Why is he going to keep the general manager that he had nothing to do with hiring when the team isn't very good?
Yeah.
So if you're Joe Cronin, their general manager, Phil Knight buys the team, you have Dame plus whoever they trade the third pick for, and your team is competitive, the new owner's probably just going to let you keep your thing going for a while, and then that's more job security for you. So this is like the rare time where trading your star and blowing it up and starting a rebuild is not the job security move for the GM.
Yeah. So I think Bulls fans before last night's lottery results were maybe thinking just to mix something up this offseason, change the roster in some way, and add young talent to it, we could convince the Blazers with some leverage to give us the pick they have coming from the Knicks, which is the 23rd pick in this draft. Is there any logical world in which maybe the Bulls front office, if they are interested in making big moves, aim a little higher and offer up one of their core pieces instead of just trying to get the 23 pick from Portland, getting the 3 pick from Portland? If you sound pretty convinced that they're going to trade that piece to try and get win-now talent around Dame, like, does the name DeMar DeRozan do anything for the Blazers? And would that yield them coughing up that number 3 pick, or would it have to be more than DeMar?
So I think what you're describing is DeMar plus the Blazers pick next year for the 3rd pick.
Right.
Right, so that the Blazers would regain their future flexibility.
Give them that pick back, and give them DeMar
star, and still maybe have the flexibility to go out and say we've got now all of our future picks 25, 27, 29 that we could attach to Simons and Nurkic to get, a 4th guy next to Jeremy Grant and DeMar and Dame, obviously.
I think they're aiming a little bit higher than any of the guys on the Bulls roster that could be in play for the pick. I think. When we're talking about
higher than All-Star DeMar DeRozan, 2nd-team All-NBA last year, DeMar DeRozan.
I will say this: Dame and DeMar are friends.
Yeah.
Like DeMar was at Dame's wedding. Like they have a relationship. I don't think Dame would be upset to have DeMar on the team. But at his age,
and the fact that this coming season is the last
year
on
of
his contract.
When I say they're going to try to shop the pick for win-now talent, I think they're thinking more in line with like Mikal Bridges, if they can convince Brooklyn to give him up. Or if Boston decides not to pay Jaylen Brown, then maybe Jaylen Brown.
Right.
Or if Toronto decides to go young, maybe go get Pascal Siakam. That's kind of where they're looking. I think they're aiming a little bit higher than like DeMar DeRozan or Zach LaVine.
Like star caliber talent that is mid-20s entering their prime kind of talent.
The way I think they feel about their roster is Dame is still I know he's going to be 33 at the start of this season, but he is still at the level that he's at. He just had arguably the best year of his career. He made third team All-NBA. He probably would have made second or first team if the team had a better record. So he's still at the level that he's at. He's still clearly a number one guy. Jeremy Grant, who they're going to re-sign, is a great number 3 on a good team.
Yeah.
They don't have a number 2. Anthony Simons isn't quite that guy, and I fully expect that Simons is going to be with the third pick in whatever the package is that they move.
You think they're going to send Simons as part of that deal?
Yes, because
You got to get some salary in there.
They A, the salary, and B, I think they knew going into the second half of the season that they were going to have to decide long-term between Anthony Simons and Shaedon Sharpe. And then I think over the last month of the season, Shaedon kind of made that decision for them. So I think they feel like, they have the number 1 with Dame. They have the number 3 with Jeremy. If you can get, Mikal Bridges or Pascal Siakam or somebody like that as your number 2 with that third pick at Simons and whatever else salary-wise you have to throw in, I think that's more what they're kind of looking at. I don't think DeMar at his age really, moves the needle for them. I don't think Zach LaVine with his multiple
That's where I was about to
contract and multiple knee surgeries.
Well, okay. Well, because I see people in the comments talking about it. Well, like, if not DeMar, then offer up Zach, who, younger than DeMar, entering his prime, and has multiple years of contract left. I think the surgeries thing, like, he had a shaky, rusty start to this past season coming off that offseason knee surgery. Not even post All-Star break. From December on, Zach LaVine played like third-team All-NBA caliber offensive basketball.
The guy that...
maybe you're just saying it would give Portland pause with that injury history.
I don't think that's... I'll say this. I don't think more offensive guards who aren't good defenders is what they're looking for. If that's going to be, if that's what you're doing, you might as well just keep Anthony Simons, who's making half as much money and doesn't have the injury history and is 5 years younger.
Right.
If that's the way you're going to go, then you might as well just keep what you have going, which is obviously not what they're going to do. They're looking what they basically need, like, because Jeremy Grant was such a good fit last year. He was like the perfect guy to put next to Dame. But that's kind of the template of what they need. Athletic wings who can defend multiple positions. They basically need more Jeremy Grants.
Right.
And that's why, like, a Mikal Bridges or a Jaylen Brown or a Pascal Siakam, and, like, I'll have a bunch of those types of guys who can switch and, do different stuff. That is more, I think, what they're looking for than a Zach LaVine or a DeMar DeRozan. I think it just kind of fits more the archetype of the type of player that they're looking at.
That makes sense from the Blazers' perspective, too. Like, you've got your offensive engine. You don't need to find necessarily another one. It's nice to have those buckets somewhere. But
Dame's a top 5 offense by himself, no matter who you put around him.
Exactly.
And he's coming off the best statistical season of his career, which is nuts.
And the thing about him, and I think I said this last year, so he had that surgery and missed most of last season with the core muscle thing. That was a surgery that you get once and it just takes care of it. It's not like he was coming off a torn ACL or a torn Achilles where it's like nobody knows if he's going to be back. I think he clearly showed this year he is exactly, he is the guy that he was before the surgery, and if anything, he's even better now. And I think they feel like he's going to age pretty well. Yeah. So they feel like he has at least another 3 or 4 years of being either at the level he's at or close to the level that he's at. And so they're trying to maximize that.
Yeah. Sorry, Will, were you going to add something to that?
Yeah, I just think, it's the sort of 3-and-D mold, and a guy like Mikal Bridges who's sort of emerging as somebody who can get his own shot a little bit certainly helps. But I think they've played the experiment of like 2 undersized backcourt bucket getters.
Yeah.
And it got them to a certain level, but I think in order to get past that, they're going to need guys that can create their own shot, but also perimeter defenders to insulate around Dame and create like a more switchable, more versatile, spaced out lineup. Because you've got, Matisse Thybulle, who's a great defender, but he can't shoot at all.
The shooting he shot 36% from 3 on, like, I don't have the number in front of me, but he had like 3 or 4 attempts per game since he got to Portland and shot 36%.
Sure, but my point is, like, you can't just have like defensive specialists who can hit a shot, or Cam Reddish who can hit a shot but doesn't play any. Like, you need to have guys that you can count on every day.
Right.
And like
Zach
I think is a much better defender than given credit for, but it would not surprise me that he's not the first option that they try to go out and get. Now, maybe they strike out on a couple of different guys, or who knows what happens, but I just don't think he'd be at the top of their list.
I don't
After-
see that as somebody they're interested in. No.
After arriving from Philly in that trade midseason, 22 games with the Blazers, Matisse Thybulle, 38.8% from three on 3.9 attempts per game.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That is better
That's
than I would have guessed.
because you play next to Dame and you're just going to have open catch and shoot looks. You don't really have to do anything as far as creation.
That's Patrick Williams numbers.
Yee! Before we take our next break here, Sean, it sounds like the Bulls getting involved with the Blazers to get that number 3 pick and make a swift change of direction if you're the Bulls is a bit of a pipe dream right now based on what the Blazers are looking for. If the making a deal with that Knicks pick is still on the table so that Portland can then do other things, how do you see that trade being built from either side, from the Blazers side, if they are ready to close that trade chapter with the Bulls to free themselves up to make other moves? What do the Blazers want out of that trade that would give the Bulls that first-round pick?
It depends on what they need for other trades. Like, if they have an opportunity to trade for somebody of the level that they are trying to trade for and they need multiple future picks, then you have to go to the Bulls and say, hey, can we work something out? And maybe that involves the Knicks pick, or maybe that, because they have like 6 second-round picks, and maybe they offer the Bulls like a pile of second-rounders for their picks back or something like that. Like,
That was definitely the popular move at the deadline this season.
yeah, and that's why they traded for a bunch of second-round picks, so that they have those to offer in trades. But if they need those picks, then they might go to the Bulls and say, hey, can we work something out? But I think moving up from 5 to 3 and the increase in value of that pick makes it more likely that they can get whatever big name star trade or second star trade done without involving future picks. You might be able to just trade the 3rd pick plus Simons plus whatever salary for somebody without having to involve any future picks.
And then maybe that makes them more inclined to hang on to that 23 Knicks pick because they want to add their own young talent in the draft.
Well, yes, I don't think they're going to give up. I don't think they're going to give away that Knicks pick unless they have to, unless they need, and I can't even think of who it would be that they would give up like 3 or 4 first rounders for in this market. Like, let's say, the only one I can think of is, let's say there's some world where like this situation in Philly falls apart and like Joel Embiid comes available,
right?
And you offer like Simons, Sharp, and all the picks. You need the pick back to do that, but like, if you have the number 3 pick in a draft where now that you know exactly where the pick lands, and it's a pretty valuable pick in this particular draft, they might be able to get something done without even using any of the future picks. And at that point, you just kind of let it ride, and then you plan on making the playoffs next year and just conveying the pick to the Bulls as it normally would have.
Right.
Yeah, that thought occurred to me too over the last 24 hours. And it's interesting because now, as good as it is for the Blazers to have jumped up, I think, whereas the Bulls had some leverage, now they might be in a position where they don't even have the ability, because of what you just mentioned, that the value of 3 versus 5 in this draft is so great that you could get something really, important to your franchise and like a really good player without having to dip into your future assets.
Right.
And maybe at some point the Blazers still want to accumulate and send out a bunch of picks to get a 4th guy or a 3rd guy or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
So maybe at that point they do something. But I do think there's a world where it means that this is less likely that the Bulls are able to get something out of the Blazers for that pick back, which would be tough. But at the same time, it's like, what does it say about your franchise when the most hopeful thing that there is like
Draft pick minutia, like pick
but
protection.
not even minutia. It's like,
pick protection negotiations.
Can you
and stuff.
negotiate something to get out of a future pick? It's a bad spot, and
it's a rough spot to be in. Yeah.
Great. Well, that puts me in a fantastic mood. But I mean, it's hard to see the reality of the situation any other way. I think Bulls fans were maybe holding out some hope that they could get back into the first round of this pretty talented draft class because of that situation in Portland and the fact that they're trying to build a win-now team around Dame and would need to close that trade in order to do so. But now, maybe that leverage the Bulls briefly had is now gone after last night's lottery results. There's a sobering reality. All right, let's take one more quick break. We'll come back to wrap up with where the hell the Bulls go from here. Will, you posed a pretty daunting question on Twitter last night that had me in my feels. So we'll talk about that to round out the show coming up next. But first, Will, tell the people who never quite understood.
They never understood.
Never understood!
And what I never understood is why these lights on our set are so bright.
Damn bright!
They are so bright. We got new ones a while back, and they're better.
Salting my retinas.
But, oh my goodness. I need some shades to wear, and although I don't have them on my person right now, I'm going straight to Shady Rays.
Is Matt walking off the set to get some shades to give you?
He's going to hook it up for me. Because our friends at Shady Rays have you covered for the warm weather, inside, outside, on set, in studio, or on Lake Michigan, or on the 606, whatever you're doing, Shady Rays has you covered. They're an independent sunglass company that offers world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair you've ever worn. They have durable frames and optical clarity. That was my favorite line from the old ad that they didn't include in the newer version.
Sustainable shades for every lifestyle and every
something.
a tag.
Is that what you got on right now, Matt? Is that some Shady Rays?
Shady Rays, baby.
Where's my pair? You got to hook it up. I'm gonna guess. Where's the hospitality? Come on, man. Those look sick. I want to get some of those.
They're great. Try them out. Use the promo code.
I might have to use the CHGO promo code.
Get 2 for 1, baby.
And even better, if you lose or break them, they've got an insane protection program. For every pair of sunglasses is backed by the lost and broken replacement plan. So if you lose or break a pair, even on day one, Shady Rays told us that they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked.
Incredible.
Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after you purchase. So exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades that are rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. There's also a special Memorial Day sale going on from 5/25. That's next week to 5/31, end of the month.
Hell yeah.
Over Memorial Day. So if you're waiting up for a little extra savings, go to shadyrays.com for 35% off all sunglasses.
Sale on top of a discount promo
Sale
code?
on top of a discount. But that's next week for Memorial Day. For now, if you just can't wait, shadyrays.com, promo code CHGO, 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Shady Rays, where the rays are oh so damn shady, as Dave would say.
Oh, so damn shady. Hey, Uncle Joseph, I got a question for you. What time is it?
Game time. Ooh.
That's right. Check out the Game Time app. All you people in Chicago looking to go to games this summer, concerts this summer. God, I am so excited for Chicago summer. We're so close, y'all. We're so close. I love going to Wrigley. I love going to concerts at Northerly Island. And whatever you feel like doing this summer, I bet you can find tickets for it at wonderfully low prices on the Game Time app. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater shows near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun you're going to have in Chicago this summer. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, and more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for a lower price somewhere else, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference on those ticket prices. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason, y'all. You can also get images of your seat before you buy, which is a feature that I love, need to have it. If I'm going to the Madhouse, I want to see exactly which chair I'm sitting in and the view of the court from there. And Game Time lets you do that. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never dig through your email. So here's what you do. Snag the ticket without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code, that's right, CHGO, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem discount with promo code CHGO, $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Game Time, who? That just got me so excited for summertime.
We're
Concerts,
so close.
That's not a big Dave level ad read, but that was also a good, solid performance.
I do what I can. I do what I can, Sean.
There's only a certain level that you can get to.
It's almost like we should just like remove the Big Dave thing from the equation, and like you can't even compare anything to Big Dave. It's
Right.
like,
He's on the
it's like
Jordan
comparing other draft prospects in this draft to Wemby. It's
Right.
like we're not discussing who
Yeah.
the number 1 overall pick
Or,
is going to be,
like
because we all know.
comparing Denzel Valentine to Michael freaking Jordan. You just don't do it.
Well, I didn't realize C-Red Fred
Give
was
yourself
here.
some credit.
Well, yeah, that's high. That is the first and last time I'll ever compare myself to Denzel Valentine. Oh man, remember those days? You were covering the beat then, Sean.
I was. The greatest, one of the maybe top, I don't have the whole list off the top of my head. I'd have to go through my like memory banks to do it, but one of the top 5 post-game quotes I've ever been a witness to was the when the Bulls won the Summer League championship. In 20,
yeah.
What was it, 15 or 16, whatever year that was, and Denzel hits the game-winning shot in the Summer League championship game. I was out in Vegas for that. And we asked him at the end, like, what do you say when people say, oh, it's just Summer League, it doesn't matter? And he says, anybody who says that has never won the Summer League championship.
Never won the Summer League championship.
Just
oh my God.
just a tremendous quote. I like Denzel. He's a nice guy. Just, shout out to C-Red Fred. That's as he's still a believer. He still thinks Denzel's just the right situation away from being a future All-Star.
Cost me a lot in March Madness. His final year at Michigan State.
Denzel did?
First
Yeah.
bucket.
No, he blew it against Middle Tennessee State. I think
was
that's
a
exactly
winner.
how it happened.
At the collegiate level, he was a bona fide winner.
The next,
Yeah, he was a
Summer
good
League
player.
level.
I don't think they ever.
He
They
was a
didn't,
bona fide winner.
next Draymond.
Do you think he had himself a championship ring made for that Summer League team? Because now, as of like last year,
year, I believe.
they
They
actually are
just-
making rings for the
They
Summer League
just
champs.
made that the first time. And by the way, who was the first Summer League champion that got the ring? The Portland Trail Blazers.
There you go.
And I was actually funny because so Bobby Portis was on that 2016 Summer League championship
Love Bobby.
team. And yeah, I know Bobby quite well. I actually just saw him a couple months ago when Milwaukee came to Portland. That's
Flex.
But so anyway, like when they first unveiled the championship ring, Malika Andrews from ESPN posted it on her Instagram of like her wearing the ring,
I remember.
as like the model. And
Yeah.
Bobby posted in the comments on Malika's post, "I need my ring from 2015." It's like, Bobby, dude, you have an actual championship ring with the Bucks. You do not
You
need
do.
to be trying to get a Summer
You
League
have a
championship.
key to the city of
Yeah,
Milwaukee.
you're like they have like the Bobby. You're like I mean, obviously like it's Giannis's team, but like the
Oh, dude.
the people's champ in Milwaukee is
Fandom?
Bobby Portis. Like
is the people's
that's the
champ.
dude, and he
Yeah.
he has his own podcast now. He's got his he's got to move that Sweetwater movie he was just in. He's doing his thing. Why is he still worrying about a Summer League championship
shouldn't
ring?
be.
He got paid. He's
I'm happy
a
for
good
Bobby.
life.
He's a good dude.
Yeah, I'm Bobby. Yeah, Bobby's one of the players I was coolest with on a beat that I've been on. I
He's a good dude.
want nothing but good things for that guy.
All right. With our remaining time, let's talk about this deep pile of shit the Bulls are in and how it got even deeper last night.
One way of putting it.
Will, you had a tweet last night as I was doing my last scrolls of the night on Twitter. Joey, do you have a screenshot of that tweet that we could share with our viewing audience there?
I was getting in bed. I was thinking dark thoughts.
These are dark thoughts.
I literally I typed this on my phone.
Oh, that's rough.
You missed the
I missed this-
playoffs.
I missed this tweet,
You
but
have
that's
no
brutal.
pick this year, no cap space, can't spend into the tax. Vooch, age 33 season, maybe walking for nothing. DeMar, age 34 season, is a free agent next summer. Lonzo ain't walking through that door. Your AK, how do you fix this?
I typed it up on my phone. I pressed send. I turned off my phone and went to sleep. I
Dude,
didn't even look.
That's one of those
That's-
you type the tweet
that's
out
a
and then turn off
grenade.
notifications.
It was a mic drop.
That is a
I respect
grenade
it.
into Bulls Twitter and then turning your phone off for the night. That's cold, Will.
You got to send that tweet right before you get on an airplane and put your phone on airplane mode for 4 hours and then just come back and see what the wreckage is.
And it kind of
Yeah.
went off, but I'll say, like, the reason I said this was not to criticize AK, but more to try to, like, empathize with him, because I think this situation is really difficult to maneuver. And I don't think he's just, like, doing nothing to, like, do nothing. Like, I think he would like to try to figure out a way out of this, but, like, the fact of the matter is it's a tough spot to be in, and there aren't a lot of good options. And he's maybe put himself in this situation with other moves that worked. Some worked out, some didn't. Obviously, Lonzo's situation kind of threw a wrench into the entire plan. You saw the outline of the vision and why it could have worked, and the fact that it did work. So it's not like it was a terrible idea from day one, but the fact of the matter is Lonzo's not coming back. This is the situation you're in, and you can't just like continue to sit on your hands. But if you're AK, like these are the circumstances. What do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do?
And that's, I think, where the frustration from the fan base comes from. That's valid. I don't have time in my day to listen to those Bulls fans on Twitter who are like, AK's the worst executive in the history of sport. He sucks. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't have a brain. Stop. He has built himself into a pretty tricky corner here, though. There's no denying that. And the frustration that's valid is the inaction that has come at 3 different windows where action was possible. Between last season's trade deadline, where they said we like our group when we're healthy and stuck with it, the offseason, where they said we like our group when we're healthy and we're sticking with it, and they told us last offseason when a lot of Bulls fans were skeptical, Lonzo will come back, we got this group, we like this group. Then at this year's trade deadline, to a lot of Bulls fans, that was not necessarily the final straw, but the biggest and most frustrating WTF. Were you surprised, looking from an outsider's perspective, Sean, that the Bulls just continued to double down on continuity throughout the past year and a half after the Lonzo injury?
Well, how much of this was Arturis and how much of this was...
the upstairs people? Well,
that's kind of the vibe that I've always gotten, is because a lot of the same, and I mean... The credibility that Arturis had, I remember a few years ago when he took the job, when they made the change from the old regime, and the credibility that he had from like what they had built Denver into, him and Tim Connolly. Mm-hmm. And it's really a lot of the same problems. That makes me wonder how much of it is him and how much of this is just never going to change until the ownership situation changes. That's kind of how but I mean, as far as how I see where this Bulls team is at and the position that they're in, I don't know how you get out of it, but I don't know how popular, I mean, you guys have a better pulse on like what the feeling of the fan base is than I do because I'm not in it every day anymore. As an outsider, I understood a lot of what they were trying to do over the last few years. I understood why they did the Vucevic trade. I understood that they felt like, okay, we need to show that we're a respectable organization. We're willing to actually trade for good players and try to win and try to be competitive. Like, I understood what they were trying to do. I thought the Lonzo thing made sense, and obviously he was incredible for that half season that he was healthy before the knee stuff happened. I think, DeMar, since they brought him in, he's the one guy in this whole thing that he has been exactly what they brought him in to do. He's the one guy that you basically can have no complaints about, whether it be like how good he's been on the court, but also like the locker room stuff, the culture stuff.
Yeah.
Zach is what he is. He's a very good offensive player. I don't know if he's, the guy that you pay what they paid him to.
Speaking of building yourself into a corner, they had no better option.
No, I know, and
that's
the
summer.
thing. Like, because if you let him go, then you just don't have. It's not like you suddenly have $40 million in cap space to replace him. So I totally get why they did what they did. The thing is, they made a bunch of bets, and there is a world where Lonzo stays healthy. And the team that they were for the first half of last season, where everything was working perfectly, Vucevic, was in good spots to be successful. Caruso's a great fit. All this stuff. If Lonzo stays healthy, and Levine, I know had some stuff, injury stuff at some point last year too. I don't have the particulars off the top of my head, but that team is a top 4 seed. You're in a different shape. But like, they made some bets, and part of making bets, and you guys know this as draft, it made some bets on DraftKings, if you will. Sometimes bets pay off, sometimes they don't. And a couple of the bets that they made off, Vucevic has been good, but he has not been trade 3 first-round picks for him good. He hasn't been the dude that they thought he would be when they traded for him. And then Lonzo was as advertised when they signed him, and then his knees fell apart, and his career is probably over, unfortunately. First of all, he had the first knee surgery 18 months ago, and he's still not able to run. That's not great. And then the most recent one that he had, they called it a cartilage transplant. And as soon as the word transplant showed up, I was just like, okay, this is a wrap. Like, I've seen this. You want to circle back to the draft lottery? Who was on stage for the Blazers last night? Brandon Roy. That's who I keep coming back to with Lonzo, which sucks because he was when they signed him, that was the thinking behind that signing was great because and you know what he was able to do, and he's like the perfect guy to put next to Zach. He gets the offense going. He can hit a three. He's a great defender. Him and Caruso together defensively was a great combination on the perimeter. They made all of these bets, and you can see why they made the bets, and you can see what the thinking was, and then just a bunch of them haven't worked out, and now they're kind of stuck.
Anything to add, Will?
I guess the point of that tweet, and I think the framework that we need to start thinking about this through, is that there probably isn't a fix-all solution that Arturas can just go to. Like, it's going to have to be a bunch of small wins on the margins. It's going to have to be patience and probably, you know, realistic expectations that, like, the next 2 or 3 years, because they still owe a pick in 2025. Like, they're not out of the woods right now.
That's for the DeMar trade, right? For San Antonio.
I think, like, the reason we have been talking about, like, tear it down, blow it up, is because that's, like, the one way that you can think about bringing in an infusion of young talent and draft capital while clearing out some space on your cap sheet. That's, like, the one way to do it. But if the parameters that he is being assigned to work within are win now and don't go into the tax, like, how can you justify trading away DeMar or Zach?
Yeah.
If you're Arturas, you can't do that.
You can't.
So there's not, like, an argument, because you have to run everything through ownership. You can't just, like,
and my guess is that ownership is not too keen on the idea that I've seen a lot of Bulls fans say in the comments today, and I saw a lot of them saying in the comments last night during the lottery. A lot of Bulls fans are done with this experiment and want them to blow it up and start over. I think it's fair to feel that way based on what we watched this season and with all educated information we have at our disposal, knowing that Lonzo, as you said in your tweet, Will, is not walking through that door. And DeMar's a year older, and Vooch is a year older, and Vooch is expiring, and who the hell is going to be this team's point guard next season? It's fair to say that they should blow it up. I would be shocked if they get the green light to do so, even if AK and Eversley, his right-hand man, decide that that's what they want to do. I would be shocked if they get that green light from ownership, because they went through 4 or 5 seasons, whatever it was, of terrible teams rebuilding that went nowhere, and the UC finally started to get empty because fans were sick of it. I don't know if they want to do that again, but I don't know. Maybe they'll be dealing with that next season anyway. Because Bulls, if they run this back, I can't imagine the UC is going to be full every night.
That's the only way that anything is going to change, is if people don't show up and people. I mean, that's why they made the front office changes that they made, because the last time that I was in Chicago before COVID was the All-Star game, in Chicago, and it was like a month before the whole world shut down, and I remember the most news that the Bulls made. I mean, I thought the city did, and I see Matt. I see you wearing the shirt. I don't have it with me, but I have the hat. I have one of the jackets. I had a great time that weekend. The city, I think the city did an incredible job hosting the event and showing, having all these different events over the course of the city, showing off the whole culture, showing off the basketball roots of the city. It was an incredible weekend. It was one of the best All-Star weekends I've ever went to in terms of how well the city hosted the event. There was no buzz whatsoever about the Bulls. There
were a lot of jokes.
The most news that the Bulls made that entire weekend was when Zach went on First Take and there were fans in the background chanting "Fire Garpax."
And he said he would love to play with LeBron.
The Bulls were embarrassed on a national stage while they and their city were hosting the event, and that was what got the ownership to finally say, okay, this front office isn't it. We need to do something different. Coupled
with the fact that towards the back end of that 1920 season, the United Center was barely full. Yeah. Never full. I've never seen the United Center that empty in my life as a Bulls fan as much as I saw it that 1920 season. Even the immediate post-dynasty rebuild years when they were terrible, Bulls fans still packed that place out of obsession and goodwill. They hit zero on their gas tank of goodwill at the end of that 1920 season, and Bulls fans stopped showing up entirely.
Will, are they gonna re-sign Kobe?
I would imagine so.
How much do you think that's gonna be?
My guess would be in the $11 to $14 million range.
So mid-level type money.
Yep,
that's not terrible. He had a really good year.
One of the few things they have at their disposal.
He had a good year. He
did.
And they'll have some space, but the point is unless they make a dramatic move, it's going to be hard to make any moves. And it doesn't seem like they're going to make a big dramatic move. So It's a tough spot to be in. Obviously, like working something out with the Blazers would be nice. It'd be an sort of a logical way to bring in some talent to get a draft pick, and that's part of the reason why we wanted to have you on here today to talk about that. But it's a tricky spot to be in, and unfortunately, like I do think running it back is on the table. Like I think we had been under the impression that if they missed the playoffs, that there had to be some changes. And while I think that might be true still, what can you really do if this is the parameters that you're working with? And I'm not excusing it. I'm not saying that I agree with it, but this is the reality. And so how do you work within those confines, and what decisions can you make to try to improve your situation?
Well, I'm glad I don't have that job. Let's put it that way.
Those guys make a hell of a lot more money than we do to make these decisions.
That is true. That is true. But yeah, when I saw that tweet of yours last night, Will, and it ended with just, if you're AK, how do you fix this? And I loved your
response, which was reaching for a beer on the floor.
What kind of beer?
With the
Goose Island, of course.
Yeah, well, of course I was reaching for a beer. There was also something written on my shirt that was the reason I screenshotted it there. I don't know if you caught that detail part of the shirt, because that's how I would fix it.
It said sell the team, Will.
I was wearing a shirt that said sell the
team. I missed that. I just saw the beer, which I also thought was a good idea.
Yeah, that always helps too. That's it. We are out of time. Sean, thank you so much for stopping by. Always good to see you, buddy.
Always good.
Hope you enjoy the rest of your time here in Chicago for the Combine. If you are curious about what the Blazers are going to do this offseason, check it out, the Rose Garden Report. You can find a link to it on his Twitter account. You can find him on Twitter at Highkin, Athletic Chicago, Locked On Bulls. Been around a long time. Always good to see him here in studio. You can follow Will on Twitter, Will_Gottlieb. Check out his latest coverage of the lottery last night, allchgo.com.
Ooh, can I plug the draft
thing
real quick?
Absolutely. I was going to do it for you, but you do it.
Oh, I thought you were going to skip over it.
You made it. You do it.
Big project that I've been working on, released today, draft database. Ton of stats, ton of info. We got synergy information. We got per 36 scoring. We've got Munergy. We've got savings, HVAC, Goose Island, Shady Rays, defensive stats, playmaking stats, everything you'd want in there. Video breakdowns, my notes, strengths, weaknesses, areas for improvement, player comps, where I think they would fit best in the draft. Ton of information in there. It's really worth going to check out for subscribers only, so make sure you sign up to be a diehard at allchgo.com. I know the Bulls don't have a pick. Maybe they get in the 20s, but if you love the draft, which I do, it's a very cool resource.
I'll tell you what, Will, the team that I cover has a couple of draft picks. I'm going to have to check this out. And actually,
you'll have to check this out.
I'm going to be fully honest with you guys. I watch zero college basketball. I know who the number one pick is going to be. I have a pretty good idea of who 2 and 3 are going to be in some order. I don't really have anything for you beyond that. So I'm in the process now of doing my own research and getting information from people whose views on basketball and on this stuff I trust. So I am definitely going to check out
this guy's work. I was looking at it earlier today. It's incredible. Go to allchgo.com or allchgo.com/diehard to become a diehard first, and then check it out. Incredible stuff from Will. We'll be back tomorrow, 4 o'clock Chicago time. And then they'll have an HQ for y'all on
Friday morning.
There it is. Until tomorrow, thanks for tuning in. Hit the thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to CHGO Sports. We got Cubs and White Sox action again tonight. First pitches just after 7 o'clock local time. They'll be here for postgame after that. Shout out and thanks to our pal and producer, Joey. We'll talk to y'all tomorrow. See you, Red. Be good.